when he,
Saying every 10 minutes
this
we're
is
gonna
during
have
the
to redo it.
Vietnam War, it was a tough period of time in the country. But when he died, the Associated Press called me up and they asked me for a quote. And I gave them a quote. About 10 minutes later, they called back and they says, my editor just called back and said, gee, that was a great quote that you gave. Could we have a picture to accompany your quote for the newspaper? It's newspapers all across the world. So I said, do you want me to sit here?
No, you're perfect. That's
Okay. So I said, okay, so I said to my wife, I said, where is, I'm going upstairs and look for a picture of Mr. Humphrey and myself. Well, I couldn't find a picture of Mr. Humphrey and myself. I probably had set up maybe 5,000 pictures of different people, from the Secretary General of the United Nations, U Thant, to President of France, and to every different person across the country, to take a picture with themselves and the Vice President, but I never had a picture. So what's the point here for you guys? When you're at some place and you're listening to somebody that you kind of admire and you kind of think is a person of interest, a person that you'd like to capture, make sure you just go up and, don't be shy about it. Because I wish I had done that to the politician that I most admired in life. And I'd have that picture hanging in my house, but I don't have that picture hanging in my house. Okay, where do you have to go?
all right. So yeah, we just kind of went through each different step in your career, kind of background, everything. Chris, I think your question's up first.
Yeah, so spending your whole life and living and working in Boston, what's your favorite part of the city?
My favorite part of the city is South Boston. Is where I grew up. I was born and brought up there, and I still live there. Lived in the same house for over 50 years. I was actually born, South Boston is a very diverse community growing up. I was actually born in the Polish neighborhood. That's how I became very close to John Paul II. I was born in Boston Street, 86 Boston Street, right next to the Polish American Citizens Club. And I was born there in 1939. And this is when Adolf Hitler came into Poland, September 1st, 1939. And that's when they rounded up the people and sent them to the concentration camps at Auschwitz. And a lot of the Polish Jews left Poland and came to Boston or Chicago. Chicago's another big city for the Polish community. But anyway, there were only 3 families in my neighborhood that didn't speak Polish as a first language. Mine was one of them. And the other one was, and the other family was a family, Irish family, who's had 6 kids, I guess, and 4 or 5 of them became priests or nuns, and one of them became president of Providence College, where I went to college, as well as Harvard. And so I knew my church was Our Lady of Czestochowa, which is the Polish National Church. So it was everybody in the neighborhood was Polish, spoke Polish as my first language. And it wasn't until, so I grew up in that culture. So like a lot of people say, oh, South Boston is Irish Catholic and all that. Well, it is. But there is a very strong Polish community, very strong Lithuanian community, very strong Albanian community, big Albanian community, as well as Italian and Irish. So, people don't really portray the area all that well, that accurately, but it's a very diverse community, and that's the area that I love the most, and still do. Although, over my career, sports, I was not driven to politics. Politics was not what I was interested in. I had no interest whatsoever of getting involved in politics. I wanted to be a professional athlete, professional basketball player, play for the Celtics. I was a ball boy for the Boston Celtics, starting in 1950. But and I saw Bob Cousy play his first game. I saw the first black basketball player ever to play in the NBA. I threw him the ball, it's on film, threw him the ball, Chuck Cooper, number 11, out of Duquesne. He played for the Celtics. Don Barksdale, number 21, came out of UCLA. He was a black player, played for the Boston Celtics. So I saw all this whole professional basketball, and I loved it. And that's what I wanted to do. And it was only until I started, when I got cut by the Celtics, I started a basketball league in Boston. Became the BNBL, famous basketball league. But I ran into some roadblocks, and politically, I couldn't get the playgrounds fixed or the basket rims fixed or whatever it is. Couldn't get money for referees, so I started this league on my own, and then I just decided to run for political office. But you say what my favorite neighborhood, while I lived in South Boston, loyal to South Boston, I was also the first kid from, there was a famous all-black basketball team in Boston, semi-pro. And they were all the college graduates, most of them. One's a doctor, two of them are lawyers, but they're great college basketball players, black guys. And I was the first white guy ever to play on an all-pro black basketball team, so it's like the Harlem Globetrotters. So I don't think I was just your average kid from one neighborhood that didn't have any interaction with anyone else. I had a lot of interaction with different kids from different neighborhoods across the city.
That covers a few questions in a row. Do you wanna, Tim? Do you wanna jump to your question?
Yeah, I was wondering if you felt your connections you made through basketball helped you with your political career.
Yeah, it really did. Matter of fact, the guy, when I ran for city council, when I ran for state representative, there was, I wasn't very, I had no political power. And the people who were there before me had a lot of political power. I was way at the bottom of the totem pole in influence. And so when they were carving up the district for the district you would represent, they wanted their area, and this one wanted their area. Bill Bulger was the president of the Senate. Michael Flaherty was the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, and all this. Joe Moakley was the congressman. Everybody got their own little, what they wanted. I didn't. I got what was left over. So I had a part of South Boston, a part of Dorchester, and a part of Roxbury. And little did they know that the Roxbury would become the strongest area in the city for me, because I knew all these guys, knew all these people. I knew the families. I played ball there and spent a lot of time. I wasn't just, I grew up in South End. I didn't know any and then I had the Polish community, and they all knew me. So, and then Dorchester, and I was well known sports, because all our games were on television. And it was we won the national championship, and our games were on TV. I was the most valuable player. And so people followed our college teams very, very closely. So yeah, it really had a big impact in terms of visibility and getting to know people in the neighborhoods and organizing programs. And I'd speak at different churches and synagogues and in the white area, the black area, the Latino area, whatever it would be. And so I had a built-in advantage through sports, knowing these different neighborhoods. But thank God my political opponents didn't know that. They thought they were throwing me to the wolves, and what they were doing is they were giving me a district that I was even stronger than they were. And then when I ran for mayor, matter of fact, I ran for mayor in 1983, and the guy that I ran against, who was a very good friend of mine, we played against each other, as he's a little older than me, We played ball against each other. He played for the South End Boys Club. I played for the South Boston Boys Club. That was Mel King. He was a state